Hello, everybody. Welcome. So this is the Operational Transformation and Resilience Theater. This is the Lifecycle Management and Operational Shifts, the Lifecycle Solutions Approach, AI-driven data centers. And please, I'm introducing to you the speaker, Alex Pontet.
Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I'll just start by quickly briefing you on what that title actually means. So we're going to be examining how comprehensive lifecycle solutions, how a comprehensive lifecycle solutions approach can dramatically enhance the performance of AI-driven data centers. We're also going to look at it how, from a new build perspective and retrofits. And in terms of that life cycle, that's the thermal solutions, the service, and the control side. So let's start by introducing the team. We'll start with Carrier. So we've got 3 members of the Carrier team today, each representing one slice of the 3 pillars. So we've got Colin Patridge, who's the DC sales engineer for UK and Ireland, and he's going to be speaking on the hardware side. We've got James Stuart in the middle. So he's the head of Nlyte, EMEA and APAC, and he will be covering the software system controls. And then we have Andrew Beardsmore on the end there. He's the service sales director for UK and Ireland, and he will be commenting on the sales, the service and maintenance side. Right. And we're also very fortunate to be joined by 2 customers today. So we have Vikram and Allan. Would you like to do a brief little introduction for yourselves? Vikram, start with you.
Absolutely, yeah, cheers, thanks. Hi everyone, my name is Vikram Vaghela, Procurement Manager in Digital Realty. I look after the thermal packages, so looking after the chillers, the cross, crack, fan wall units. I also procure transformers, substations, and CDUs, so the cooling distribution units. A quick 10-second overview on Digital Realty. We have over 300 data centers plus, and as many of you have heard this week, we've now extended our footprint into Bulgaria, in Sofia. So we are expanding rapid as ever. So that's us in a nutshell. Over to yourself, Allan.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Allan Rooms. I'm head of data center delivery at Latos Data Centers. That basically, people who know the Reba stages, I'm looking after Reba stage 0 to Reba stage 6, and included in that with an MEP bias, and also looking after the main power. 25 years experience in the industry, and like probably many people in this room today, I fell into the industry completely by accident. This was not meant to be my main job. Again, quick overview of Latos. We're embarking on a really, really aggressive build out plan. You might have seen our press releases, a neural edge data centers. 40 data centers with over 20 sites in 5 years. Aimed absolutely at the AI liquid cooled market.
Right, thank you, Allan, and thank you, Vikram. All right, so I think what we'll do is we'll start by getting the answers from you 2 first, the customers, because you are the most important people here on the stage. And then we'll get a response from the Carrier team afterwards. So first question then. Allan, let's start with you. When modernizing a data center, what are your key priorities?
Okay, so we are obviously doing a complete new build out. We're not doing retrofits, CapEx projects. We're not taking over existing buildings. We're doing ground up builds. So I've made some notes because obviously this changes on a regular basis with the change of strategy and the AI market. But we're trying to design everything to be modern, upfront, and making sure we're not going to get caught out in the future. We don't want a building that's out of date in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years' time. It's doesn't have flexibility. We have to look at a holistic life cycle strategy from day one. Not looking at it going, we'll worry about that later. We're trying to get everything in from there. Primary technical focus. So once we've secured the land and the power, 2 critical things. The 2 most important things to us internally are power and the thermal and cooling management. What we've looked at, we've been doing power, as we know, for years. 200 megawatt data centers have been around for 20, 30 years. We know how to do it. Power's just got smaller, more efficient, but we know what we're doing. The game changer now is cooling and thermal management, and it's looking at that whole thing. Who'd have thought we got DLC, DTC, rear door heat exchangers, CDUs, yeah? We've got all the different types of chillers. We're still going to need to put some air liquid cooling. Who'd have thought 3 years ago CDUs would be the prime example? There was maybe two stands in here doing CDUs. You walk around here today, probably every other stand's got a CDU on it, yeah? They're going to be a game changer in the market, so we're having to look at how we adopt that in row, end of row, perimeter, central, yeah, from there. We also look down at the comprehensive life cycle assessments. We have to go right in. So we don't just look at the standard cost of the equipment. We have to go right back into what the service costs are going to be, total cost of ownership, NEFM. What if there is a break fix? How do we look at all that? We also need to look at the roadmap. How's AI going to impact us? Yeah. Can with this equipment can we automate more in the future? Maybe not now, but can it be automated? Other thing that we're all hearing in new data centers, sustainability and ESG metrics. Yeah, we have to start looking in our designs up front to get in all those. But we've also got to look at our supply chain. It's not just that supplier, it's their supply chain. We've got to look at our scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions. Regulation and compliance is coming. It's in Europe now. Individual countries have got it. We need to be ready for it as well. So we need to be getting ready to look at all that. When it's coming, are they going to ask us to report on 1 figure, 100 figures, or 1,000 figures? I need to design it now and get all the systems in place that by the touch of a button, by creating a report, all that data's there for me. We're also looking now at a partner over product approach. So we're making sure that the partner is working with us, looking at that R&D for flexibility. Are they willing to work with us? Are they going to leave us high and dry in 5 years when I go, I'm out of capacity? What can I do? So we're taking all of that. What we're finding is that there's not a lot of difference between the products these days, but 1.5, maybe maximum 0.5. They're so close with the technology. We still then go down to, we choose the people. Who do we trust to deliver that? And we've got to have that trust onto there. The big one, though, is there now. It's TCO against price. Yeah, we're looking at the total cost of ownership. Not for 5 years. We're looking at 10, 15 years. Looking at if I change that to there, if that happens, what happens if the compute changes from silicon to optical? What do we do? What happens? We're looking at everything. So we're now not buying just on price, which we used to. We're not trying to make the CFO happy anymore. Yeah, we're trying to actually do it to longevity of the site.
Great, thank you, Allan. Okay, and so Vikram, you exclusively deal in retrofits, is that right? What's your perspective?
Yeah, so when it comes down to it, we build data centers, we modernize data centers, we operate data centers, and then we obviously serve our customers as well. So we've got that full end-to-end life cycle in digital realty. But coming back to your question, really important question over here. So from a procurement standpoint, what is the return on investment we're getting in buying these products, right? Our expectation is, as the products get more better, the evolution follows a trend of efficiency and effectiveness. I want to see they're not pulling as much power as they used to, right? And organizations like yourself, you need to be our right-hand person to let us know, to say, there's an increased demand that you're giving to us, but it's going to be pulling less power. So with all of these aspects, we build data centers at pace on this front, right? But then on another notion, we need to understand from our perspective, spare parts. So what does the spare parts look like, right? We purchase equipment, spare parts. What are those spare parts? Availability of those spare parts. How close are they going to be to the data centers? What is critical? What's not critical, right? What parts generally need to get worn out more quicker than the others? And then it's looking at organizations. So I want to understand, do you have a 24/7 command center? Do you actually have someone looking at our assets? What does your field service engineers look like? How close are they to our data centers? We have service level agreements. We need someone in our data centers in 4 hours. Can you do that? Can you not? What does your footprint look like? And then last but not least is the market rates for maintenance. So we're benchmarking all the suppliers to make sure that we're paying at market rate. We need to make sure that we're all fair and square just on this front. And then it's a speciality, right? Coming back to your question. The speciality of a CapEx build versus a retrofit, right? Is 2 totally different dynamics, right? You have limitation of dimensions, weights, right? You might have a product that might not be fit from a dimension point of view, but tell us, can you break it apart? Can you get it into the rooms you need? Does it work? Does it not work? And I just want to finish off on one point. When we do buy products, there's always new products that are always going to be out on the market. Now, these products are generally, in my point of view, an investment. So in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, we can't be forced down the road of buying another product because it's newer. We need to have add-ons to these products to make sure that they are current at that moment of time. So this is what we do within the business of digital realty. Hope that answers.
It does. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Vikram. Okay, wonderful. So it sounds like then the key priorities there are total cost of ownership. We've got sustainability, obviously, big one. Return on investment, modularity. We've got compliance. And I suppose one of the biggest ones is partnership. That's a key factor in this mix by the sounds of it. So I think that probably brings us neatly onto the carrier team. So I think we'll start with you, Colin. Let's start with the hardware side and the thermal solutions. What is it that you can deliver to our customers?
Yeah, so the big thing that we're sort of looking at right now in this modernization piece is a lot of data centers, legacy data centers, are now in that refresh cycle where they've been around sort of 10, 15, 20 years. And they've got these nice old chillers that are probably breaking down, they're running slow, they're not as good as they used to be. But because technology's advanced so much, we've got this situation where the chillers are naturally bigger than they were 15, 20 years ago. So as Vikram said, we're trying to fit almost like, square pegs in round holes. And until you sort of see those sites and develop them and learn about them, you can then present these new ideas. And as Vikram and Allan said, like, modernization isn't about replacing your 10-year-old chiller today. It's about what does that chiller today look like in 10 years? And unfortunately, it seems like every 6 months we get another announcement about, oh, the rack size is now 300 kilowatts. Oh, now it's half a megawatt. Now it's a megawatt. How can you possibly predict that in the future? And one of the main things that sort of Carrier are doing is these sessions where we talk to our customers and going, right, what do you need our product to look like today? What do you need it to look like in 5 years? And if it's your birthday, you could have absolutely anything you wanted. What would you want that chiller to look like in 10 years? And then we aim towards that. I mean, we've got products that are scheduled for release at the end of 2027, not because we don't think they'll be ready by then, so when we think the market needs them by then. So we're constantly doing this voice of the customer feedback, these partnership sessions, which again, you can have the best product in the world, but if you haven't got the software to prove it, if you haven't got the service to back it up, and you haven't got the customers telling you it's the best product in the world, then you ain't got the best product in the world. So we're constantly developing, talking, and building those partnerships up within Carrier and externally as well.
Great, thank you, Colin. So, James, do we have the software to back it up?
I hope so. No, but you're right. I think again, it's come across in a number of the things that have been said. It's having that joint up approach, that trusted advisor kind of status, where we are looking to gauge customer feedback and understand what's going on. That's how we grow as an organisation, as Carrier. But I think as well, when we start looking about the software and how that's in place, it's being able to ensure that those systems are in place, not just to understand, like you say, what we have today, but what you'll have tomorrow. But as you make those changes or look at those new technologies, understanding how that's going to have that knock-on effect within the environment as you're planning and making those changes within the facility. And I guess it's that modeling of change and then proving that out that the software is going to be able to provide that. I know Allan mentioned as well about like the sustainability, the ESG kind of goals. We're starting to see a lot more push from various customers for gathering that data now, even where it isn't compliance led to do so. But because, like you said, you don't know what that is going to be tomorrow, but you can't, at the time you need to provide that information, you need to have already been gathering it, right? You need to be actually starting to build up that understanding of what it could look like, what you expect it to look like. And as that landscape changes and those legislative bodies start to put that in place, you need to be in a position to do that. And especially like when we start looking at, we don't know what the world's going to be like. You said like about the CDUs 3 years ago, people weren't talking about them, now they're everywhere. You've got a situation where you need to be, as densities within the data center are changing, people are looking at high density, you need to look at those high level of granularity when it comes to monitoring, understanding all of those different nuances and those new technologies. And again, our role as carrier, as our individual groups or as carriers, to understand from the customers what they're seeing, what we're seeing, and seeing how they align to make sure that we are in a position to be able to provide those at the time they're going to need them.
Thank you, James. Thank you. And that brings us to you, Andrew. So we've got the telemetry and the data. So what is it that your side would then do to support our customers with modernization?
I think service is continually changing, and particularly in this environment. It's no longer just break fix, let's keep things moving as it should.
Yeah.
And back to the question around modernisation, and Allan talked about total cost of ownership. Increasingly what's important in the service environment is giving good advice to customers about the right investment and the right time to make that investment. So, as you said, Alex, the predictive insights that we now get for most of our equipment helps our engineers understand that timing and helps us consult with our customers in a proactive way that makes sure that investments are made at the right time and in the right equipment. But certainly from a service perspective, we're doing things like energy audits, carbon assessments as part of the ongoing life cycle of a maintenance contract. And that really helps, particularly in the retrofit environment, to identify that optimum time to modernize.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so it's almost, would you say it's almost looking out for the customer yesterday, today, and tomorrow? It's being there all the time. In terms of tomorrow, that's always hard to predict, isn't it? So in terms of, where the landscape will be in 5 years' time with AI densities, that's a very tough thing to position. So that kind of brings us into the idea of flexibility then. And I think, Vikram, if we start with you, what is it that you're looking for when building flexibility into your data centers?
Yeah, absolutely. So another great question, right? So what I would say is, when it comes down to flexibility, is the suppliers are our eyes and ears within this industry, right? We need you to tell us, what do you predict next looks like? What are the demands that you're getting versus the demands that we are giving you, right? We can ask you for a product, but we want you to consult back to us to say, hey, look, you've got other organizations asking for something else. Also have a look at this as well, right? So not just to us to be prescriptive and you give us what ideally we want you to say, you can do better. We want you to push us. We want to, elevate us on this front. But then, looking at this hypothetically, touching on Alan's point, was what was the discussion 5 years ago? And here we are today, and what would be that discussion in 5 years when it comes to thermal management, right? So we want to understand, what does next look like? We understand what today and the demands look like right now, but what can we do to get ahead of the game? Let's do some great thinking together, put some great minds together to say, what can we do to get ahead of the market? How do we get ahead of the market? And when the market does reach us at that point of time, we're ready for it very quickly, right? So this is why I'm looking at the flexibility node. We're looking at such items at this moment of time of, in digital realty, we have a lot of data-driven decisions. So we look at the data that we're getting back from our suppliers, the supply chain, we're benchmarking, we're speaking to these suppliers to say, look, this generally looks like what the market rates look like, what the market is giving to us. Now, let's understand what does that next look like. If you're launching, again, a new product, we're all up for it, but we need to make sure the current products in our data centers are the most current at that point of time. Whether that's putting some form of adaptations to make sure that we get those predictive maintenance, right? And on that predictive maintenance note, what is predictive maintenance? How can we use that predictive maintenance? So you can give us all of the data around predictive maintenance, but how can I apply it? What does it actually mean to me? How can I make my data center more efficient, more effective, right? From all of these great notions. And just one thing to note, just before I hand it over to Allan, is again, you are our eyes and ears within this industry of what does next look like within this portfolio of products and thermal. So back over to yourself, Allan.
Thank you, Vikram. Yes, and certainly over to you, Allan. From your perspective, does that flexibility requirement change for the new builds that you do versus what Vikram's doing? Or is
It's
it
very, very similar. I've 25 years experience in the industry, and Vikram's absolutely right. The supplier chain is absolutely critical to us. I've been in the industry, I know what's happening, I read all the news stories, you see some coming through on your email boxes, I attend events like this. But it's knowing what other people are doing in that industry as well. So flexibility to us, we're looking at 5 MVA to 10 MVA IT halls, IT learning data halls. So 20 MVA, 30 MVA sites. But we've got to get that right over that 10 to 15 year lifespan. So flexibility is meaning to us making sure that we can change the density of the racks. Are they going up? Are we going to start dropping it? If the density is going up, but then if power's coming down later on, if we're changing the compute style, they're going to put more compute in. We've also got to look at a lot more modularity. What can we do modular? If I'm buying a kit now, can I expand it later if I needed to? Or can I take a unit off? Do I need the CDU? Do I need to put more valves? Having a look at that. Our cooling design is now a platform design. The cooling's becoming modular as well. You don't just throw a load of cars in and some in-row coolers and then leave your chillers outside. You've got to look at the modularity. You've got to start working from there. And you do start with the basics. You start with your air and then you start mixing. We've also got to look at future-proofing the infrastructure. And this is a key one because primary loops, secondary loops, tertiary loops, everything from there. So what we've got to even do, we've got to start looking at hydraulic separations as well, different size headers, mixer valves for future takeoffs. If you're doing a pod design, you get lucky, you get one customer taking your whole data hall, fantastic. What happens if you've got 4 pods, 4 different customers, 4 different temperatures? How are you going to manage that? And because they're all going to want something different, because Jensen's telling us the chiller's dead, 45 degrees is the new thing, and I might have somebody at 25. I need to fit that into my design, and I need to work with the manufacturer that's going to go, that kit can do it, and I don't need to buy another box. What we've got to remember now is the data center's changed. We're now selling power and cooling capacity, not racks. We have to have a spatial awareness to say, otherwise I'm going to end up with a data hall 20,000 square foot with 2 racks in it. You've got to kind of come up with a design and an average. All we're saying is, that's your power, this is your cooling, I can do it. If you want to put it in 4 racks, 40 racks, I can do it. So it then becomes about mixed densities. We might have some 20 kilowatt racks, we might have some 150 kilowatt racks.
Yeah.
It's making sure we can take it all into that facility. Hybrid cooling. We're designing that if a customer does come in with an older chipset, I can do 100% air. I can do an 80-20 mix with more liquid cooling with what's coming in. We're seeing the new chipsets coming out. Supermicro announced their DLC2, 98.3% heat capture from direct liquid cooling. But you still got 1.7 that I need to get out. I've mentioned earlier, I've got sustainability, I've got ESG, I've got net zero targets to try and hit. I need to be able to how do I get that extra 1.7 out as well? So I've got to look at all that design and be so flexible, because if a customer then changes in 3 years and moves their kit out and upgrades it, I don't want to be changing all the pipe work and looking from there. The other bit is we've got to start looking, we're now looking at telemetry-driven operations. We've got to start monitoring things like your delta T, your delta P, yeah? All the valve positions, what are our flow rates? We need to do it at an automatic basis. And I need to be able to set dynamic set points and be able to do it automatically, or if something changes, it comes in.
Sorry, Alan, do you mind if I interrupt, just so we can, I just want to get the carrier perspective, and I'm just conscious of the time.
Yep.
Because this is a big topic, and I appreciate there's a lot to add to this. But if we could move on to, let's start with Andrew, because we started with you last.
From a service
Yes.
perspective, I mean, Alan's talking about an ever-changing environment. So,
Yeah.
one size does not fit all. The service teams have to be adaptable to the environment, scalable, and that's one of the things that Carrier does offer its customers across Europe. Over 650 engineers dedicated to the data center environment, and there's this phrase condition-based maintenance, and I think that's really important. So part of that is basics, and basics is regular inspections, pressure checks, leak detection, some of the things that make sure that the equipment runs to its maximum efficiency. But I think more important, and back to the predictive insights and the AI element, is how we can use that information to genuinely make a difference in the KPI environment. Vikram talked about that earlier.
Yes.
And KPIs are more important than ever in this environment. And from a carrier perspective, if we can get a mechanic to site, understanding the problem, and with the right part in hand, that's going to make a real difference. And that's how we need to be flexible, and how maintenance is evolving for the future. As I say, no longer reactive, it's a proactive and predictive approach.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. And that brings us on to James then. So the predictive element, that's your side.
So absolutely, I'm conscious of the time. I'm going to give some time to Colin as well. But you're right. I think we've touched on it a few times. Is that our relationship with our customers? It's how do we align with them? Andrew's mentioned it. If you've mentioned it, we need to be able to understand yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And it's whether that is through user groups, customer discussions. I always tend to think of it like the pillars for which our roadmaps are built from, right? It's the customers we have, the people we're listening to. We're lucky to have customers like Allan and Vikram. They can tell us where they're going. We've also got the view of Carrier. Where do we see this market going? Whether that is from the software perspective, the service perspective, the hardware perspective, and being able to then understand what do our new customers. We obviously want to grow. We want to bring on new people. What do they need for us to do to get there and align with that? And then it's again we've touched on a few things here with regards to flexibility.
Yeah.
We're open protocol. When it comes to the software, we do care, but we don't care what you've got. If it speaks an open protocol, we can pull that information in. It's advancing how people can consume that data. So we have integrations through AI and Copilot, so you can use the language models to extract data out of Nlyte and understand what that is without being a native user of the product. It's giving that customer that flexibility to do those things. But I'm conscious there's only a minute and a half, so I'm going to start.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Colin, last but not least, from the hardware perspective.
Definitely least on this panel anyway. So I just wanted to kind of wrap that up in look, when we're working for a manufacturer, we're generally, the industry is very good at providing a problem for a solution, if you know what I mean. Like we go, oh, we need CDUs. Well, why do we need CDUs? Well, the whole industry is saying CDU. Do you actually need one? And in which case, you then develop that product. But listening to this whole panel today was very much like, hey, we don't want to be told what our problems are going to be in 5 years. We want to tell you our problems now and what we think they'll be, and please work towards that. So I think as a whole, suite of products that we do, we generally find that the most productive way of doing things. And the reason that we sort of tie all this together and why we've got the different aspects of Carrier here is because we've talked to our customers and they don't want a chiller delivered. it's great, Chiller, thank you very much. They don't want a bit of software that can tell them what their data center's up to. And they don't want just that service side going, if there's a problem, we'll fix it. They want all aspects of that packaged together. And the reason we sort of tie that together, we call it a QuantumLeap solution. It's sort of what we're doing in branding and everything at the moment. We're trying to tie all that together as one package by listening to our customers, developing that product, and making sure that, yes, it's ready for today, but it's ready in 15 years' time as well.
Great, thank you, Colin. Right, now, so I am very conscious that that timer says 0000 at the back. So what I'm going to do is just give a quick roundup of everything we've just heard, and then I'm afraid we're not going to have time for a Q&A, but our lovely customers here, Vikram and Allan, will be on the carrier stand at D70, which is just over in this direction, and they'll be there probably for the next 20 minutes?
20, 30 minutes.
20, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And that will give you a time to ask any questions you might have, and also from our carrier team as well. So just to quickly wrap up then. So maintenance has got to evolve from the break-fix model. We can't be doing that anymore. That's going to turn into a true partnership. And so we need, proactive carbon assessments. We need energy audits, continuous upskilling, everything there to handle fast-paced innovation. Software's got to be flexible. It's got to use AI and language models to back it up. We need operators that can extract, basically so operators can extract massive amounts of information. And the hardware innovations that prioritize things like lower PUEs, lower approach temperatures, whatever it might be. And that all needs to look 5 to 15 years into the future. Which all ties back to Allan and Vikram's requirements, or partially, there is more. And that's that cooling has replaced power as the new big game in town. It's the star at the moment. And to handle the high density demands of AI without ripping and replacing systems is key. We need to stay modular and keep it holistic. And we want to prioritize total cost of ownership, deep telemetry, and choosing a partner, essentially, that is capable of supporting that from day one. And I believe that is definitely all we have time for. So I'd like to thank our panel, Allan and Vikram, for joining us here as customers, and then Colin, James, and Andrew from Carrier. And if you would like to see us today, or Carrier's team today, they're going to be delivering some more talks. We have one at, let me double check, there's one later today at 3:55, in the Energy Efficiency Theatre. And there's a keynote tomorrow at 2:15 in the Keynote Theatre. But other than that, I think you're all free to go. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Well done.